evening.
All right, thank you. Okay, so yeah, so our second speaker today is Yena Kim. She is joining us from all the way from the Netherlands in Europe. So she's a researcher at Leiden University, and she studies animal cognition, especially in our evolutionary neighbors, the great apes. Yeah, there'll be a lot of videos and photos about bonobos, which came up in like a past nerd night, I remember. But yeah, without any further ado, I'd like to pass the mic to Yena. Take it away.
Okie do. Thank you very much for having me here today. My name is Yena Kim, and I'm from Leiden University. It's 12, no, it's less than 12 p.m. Okay, but as it's a rule to have a glass of wine or liquor, so I have a wine at 12 and without any breakfast. So cheers first, everybody. Okay, so so I'm gonna share my screen. Everybody hear my screen?
Yep, coming in loud and clear.
Okay, and you hear me well?
Yep.
Okay, let's get started. So the goal of today's presentation is to make you taste a bit of how to study animal cognition. And I'm gonna give you a very specific example from my recent study on bonobo emotional expressions. Okay, so when you think about research, you might think something very sophisticated so that you cannot do, you cannot really do. But actually, we are practicing research in our everyday life. So imagine you are at a bar after a very tired work, you just want to relax yourself with a glass of martini or whatever, I don't know what that is. But then you suddenly notice that a guy sitting over there is staring at you. Okay, so you stare at him back, and then, okay, this attractive guy makes a nice smile and then asks, how you doing? Okay, oh, this is pretty unexpected. And this is when this curiosity kicks in. And whenever you have this curiosity, then you would question yourself, okay, what is this fucking guy doing? What is the meaning of this behavior? What is the purpose of this behavior, right? Then you might have some kind of possible answers or possibilities or potential answers of this guy's behavior. And the most likely he might be into you. Okay, great, congratulations. But it could be also that he is just such a nice guy, so he's just genuinely interested in knowing how others are doing. But it also could be that it's just his habit. So whenever he has an eye contact, it's just so automatic. He would react to like this, how you doing? Okay, then you want to test how you doing. Okay, so then you might want to test which one among these is the case, which one among these is the true case. Actually, the easiest way to figure out is just go directly and ask him, okay, are you into me? I don't know whether it's appealing, but you can still try to figure out whether it works. But in many cases, like me, I'm quite shy, so I wouldn't be able to do that. Or in many cases, or in most cases, when you study animals, you wouldn't be able to ask them, what are you thinking? So we have to take an indirect way to answer this question. So imagine that you want to test a second hypothesis, which was he is genuinely interested in knowing how others are doing. Then you might predict, okay, if he is interested in knowing how everybody is doing, then you would predict he would ask the same question to anybody in the bar, right? So then you can test this hypothesis. This is an observational approach. And imagine that you want to know whether he makes an eye contact imagine that you want to test whether he say how you doing whenever you have an eye contact with him. Then you want to have this kind of experimental approach. So you would make more eye contact and more eye contact to him, and then count how many times he would repeat this the same. Okay, so this is an experimental approach. So basically, in everyday life, we do practice the procedure of research, and again, it's the same procedure of conducting a research or animal research. So whenever we have a curiosity, either from our observations or either from literature survey, then you want to make this curiosity into a testable research questions with hypotheses and predictions. And then what I meant by testable research questions is you have to be able to measure it. You have to be able to quantify it. So based on your hypotheses and predictions, you would then design an observational or experimental study, and then you would measure responses, and then you would test, okay, whether it meets your predictions or not. So basically, this is a procedure of a research. And I hope you get familiarized with this so that we can practice with a specific example of bonobo emotional expressions. Okay, I think I have to give a little bit of my background or my group background. So I am from COPAN, Leiden University, and COPAN is an abbreviation of Comparative Psychology and Affective Neuroscience, led by Dr. Mariska Kret. You see here, yeah. So our group is generally interested in emotion communications, but we not only study explicit facial expression, but we also study some more autonomic physiological responses, such as like pupil dilation, heart rate variability, goosebumps, blushing, or skin conduct tense, which we cannot actually voluntarily control. And our group not only studies humans, but also studies great apes, especially great apes, who has a close common ancestry, to understand or to get an insight into the evolution of emotion communication. And one of the most frequently used emotional communication or emotional expressions in human life is a smile. So you do use a smile when you have some kind of positive or happy internal state. So smile not only reflect your positive internal or happiness internal state, but also sometimes, and there are some cases, we have to fake our smiles. And this can be, so what you would produce more genuine smile when you are with your friend or more close partner or somebody like that. But you would sometimes need to fake your smile when you are in front of a supervisor, when you get nervous. So studies have found that social relationship matters when we use this smile. And that smile is not only reflecting your internal emotional state, but it's a social signal which can be controlled or which can be manipulated by us. And primates also have this similar facial expression known as bare teeth display. And as you can see here, bare teeth display of chimpanzees or bare teeth display of any other species of primate have a similar morphological characteristics of human smile. And again, this bare teeth display in primates are pretty much found in most primate species. Therefore, it is suggested to be the origin of human smile. And similar to human smile, primate bare teeth display is known to be influenced by social characteristics, especially social hierarchy, the stiffness of the social hierarchy. For example, in the rhesus macaque, which is a species having a very steep hierarchy or the despotic society, they use this bare teeth display only to the dominant individual. So it's very unidirectional and it signals a submission. So in response to threat, it just signals a submission to this dominant individual. On the other hand, crested macaques, which is famous for their more tolerant or affiliative society, they use this bare teeth display not only unidirectionally, but also bidirectionally. So I do present bare teeth display not only to the dominant or older individual, but also to the younger or subordinate individuals. And this bare teeth display is not only found in submissive context, but more often in affiliative context. And I don't know whether the pronunciation is correct, and Van Holt, they propose this power asymmetry hypothesis, basically saying that the power asymmetry among individuals would lead to the use of distinct signal of submission, or it can converge with an affiliative signals. So my curiosity was to figure out what is the, or how the BRTs is used in bonobos. And I did a literature survey, and actually there are not so many studies out there to explain whether the BRTs is used in particular context or whether the BRTs is influenced by the social rank. So why bonobos? Yeah, I guess you are already familiar with chimpanzees. So bonobos and chimpanzees are super closely related to each other and also to humans. So they also have a pretty much the same social organization, but unlike chimpanzees, bonobos have a female-centric society, which means that females are in the center of the society and females often dominate males. So yay, okay. But anyway, so this due to this female centralized society, they are often described as an affiliative or more tolerant or sometimes an egalitarian species. So if this power asymmetry hypothesis is true, then we would be able to predict, okay, BRT's display in bonobos might be produced regardless of the rank. And also this BRT's display would be produced not only in the submissive context, but perhaps more often in the affiliative context. So these are the testable research questions that I made according to the power asymmetry hypothesis. So this is a bonobo life at Apenol Primate Park. So there's no audio. So here you see bonobos are doing grooming, and this juvenile is drinking milk, and the infants are playing over there. So we did this video recording and then coded every behavior. So my student Yolande from Leiden University, she did this observation from January to March with 11 bonobos at Apenol Primate Park. And then we have a total of 106 video recordings. And we imported all these videos into the software Boris and this program. And then we coded every social interaction based on when, who did what to whom, and also whether there was a facial expression or what was the facial expression of this social interaction. So we coded every specific information about each social event. So let's look at the rank first. So we kind of predicted that bonobos would have more tolerant social hierarchy. But it wasn't the case. The bonobos at Apenol, they have rather a steep hierarchy. And as you can see here, females mostly dominate males. And you see the steepness of the hierarchy. And this is only the data of adults. So we found that, okay, bonobos in this group have rather a steep hierarchy. So we wanted to know that, okay, whether bonobos do produce BRTs regardless of the rank, right? So we checked that, and then it turns out, actually it was not. So bonobos were more likely to produce their BRTs toward the dominant individual, but not really equally. Okay, and we also wanted to know whether bonobos do produce BRTs more flexibly, not only in the submissive context, but also in the affiliative context. And it wasn't really the case, even though bonobos do use this in a multiple context, they did not show more or the higher proportion of a BRTs display in the affiliative context. Okay, so, So bonobos produce BRTs display most often in the sexual context, and then I would show you the example of it. Again, there's no audio, so this is when there was a food provisioning happened, and you will see this alpha female just displayed as another individual, and you will see they are having this GG rubbing, genital non-reproductive sexual contact, and then you will see this female banji is making their teeth display. And in bonobos, it is well established that bonobos use this GG rubbing or non-reproductive sexual contact to reduce the tension among them. And when they have a food in front of them, not only in front of them, but when they are anticipating food, already the stress level increase, not only in the behavioral signs, but also in actual neurocortical level as well. So whenever they have this stressful environment, then they do use this GG rubbing to reduce the tension. And while they were GG rubbing, they produce the spirit teeth displays. And we also checked that whether immatures are using the spirit teeth display, but we analyzed it separately because we didn't have any information about the rank for the immatures. And what we found that for the immatures, spirit teeth was more kind of used or produced more flexibly than the adult. And this is an example of immatures making bare teeth displays. So this is actually recorded while I was doing eye tracking experiment. So this video screen you see here is recorded from a webcam installed above the monitor. So you will see this. This is the nozzle where they drink the juice while they are viewing the screen. So this is just an example to give you an idea how they would make their teeth display. So this three immatures are having fun. Okay, actually it was her turn to participate in the eye tracking, but then these two guys are also interested in joining this. So then the tension increases, and then this female, the juvenile, is making GG rubbing with the infant over there. And you see this infant, he was 1 year and a half years old. Yes, hopefully. And then he was making this explicit bare teeth displays. So what does my study tells? First of all, bonobos, especially in this particular group of bonobos, are not egalitarian. They rather have a steep hierarchy. And actually there was a huge variation across study population, especially captive populations. And the bare teeth in bonobos, especially in this population, used as a signal indicating social status, as a subordination, to indicate a subordination. And although bare teeth was used in a more flexibly, or in not only in the submissive context, but this was not found in the affiliative context. And also immature individuals, they use more bare teeth more flexibly, which may indirectly shows that immature individual may learn the proper use of bare teeth throughout their environment so that they can finely tuned. So yeah, I have to take a message, right? So actually I was given a mission from the Conserv'Session that I had to connect my talk to animal welfare, conservation, and also environmental issues. But actually the topic itself is not really directly related to welfare or conservation or whatever. But then I kind of realized that while you were listening to my talk, you may already feel connected to at least bonobos because you now know more about them, right? So, and also as you already heard the talk by Marie, you would also feel more connected, or you would care more about animal welfare or animal conservation. So my mission to you is please connect yourself to bonobos or non-human animals or the mother nature by joining this kind of event more and more frequently, because the only way you feel more connected to the other is to get to know more about them. So hopefully I give a sort of a connection you with at least to bonobos. And with that, I would like to thank everybody for your listening and attention. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Yena.
You're very welcome.
What a great talk.
Mhm.
So yeah, I guess we will now move on to questions.
Okay.
And so anybody right now on the Zoom call, they're welcome to ask any questions, and then we can move on to the YouTube.
Okay, breaking.
Whoa.
Go ahead. Okay. Is it okay?
Yes.
I was gonna say breaking the ice was a maybe stupid question, but technical question, you know. When you were filming your screen on the computer and filming this GG rubbing, you were shaking the camera. Was that on purpose or was that totally just technical skills? I don't know if you noticed, but yeah, we were wondering what's going on.
Really? Actually, I have to ask my student whether she was aroused during filming this, but it's taken by my student. So, yeah. Okay. Even though I feel it's quite inappropriate to ask that question, but if you really insist, I can ask. Yeah.
That's okay. That was just to break the ice, so now it's all over to the others.
Really? I don't think the ice is broken, but let's see. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions?
If it kind of you know, just to make sure to make that we don't have any awkward awkward silence here. You talked about bonobos, and obviously, is this a common trait you see in the other in the other great apes, as in? So does this happen in chimpanzees? Is it also found in orangutans?
What do you mean? Like the bare teeth display or?
Yeah, the bare teeth display as a in or like, is there a different context if they actually do bare teeth display?
Yes, of course. So actually, this is a part of a comparative study that I actually having a data collection right now with the chimpanzees at Artes Zoo in the Netherlands. So the main idea is that the prediction that I had, the chimpanzees, since they have more steep hierarchy than bonobos, I expected this bare teeth display would be more directed towards dominant individual and then would be more present in the submissive context. But actually, this was the opposite of what I expected, because exactly this kind of predictions were found in bonobo population. So I am still in the process of data collection of chimpanzees so that we can actually directly compare with regard to that. But already previous studies show that chimpanzee bare teeth display not only indicate the submission, but also like benign intent or more affiliative intent. So, yeah.
And how about orangutans, or is there any data regarding that?
Yeah, of course, there is also a study about bare teeth display in orangutans. Orangutans also not really systematically investigated with regard to power asymmetry hypothesis, but orangutans do also have this bare teeth display, and then researchers suggest this would indicate their kind of distress. Yeah.
Looks like we have Kenneth with their hand up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Hi, Yena. Thanks for the presentation. That was nice. I was wondering if you have, or any other scientists have ever considered trying to smile to different primates to see their reaction, like for science, actually. I believe there is quite a potential for an Ig Nobel Prize in that. So what do you think?
Well, I don't know whether I would design that kind of experiment, but I have a story from a zoo in Rotterdam. So there was this visitor who was so in love with gorillas, and then this visitor has no idea about the gorilla behavioral repertoire. And then for us, eye-to-eye contact means some kind of attachment. We are connected to each other when we have an eye contact. So this this visitor make a direct eye contact with the alpha male of gorilla, and then I guess it was she ended up gorilla escaping and snatched her, and then injured her. So I don't know whether I would design an experiment of making a social smile to different species of primates to figure out whether they would interpret the way we signal, or whether they would interpret the way they perceive in their species repertoire. But it could be that it could be an interesting experiment, but I wouldn't do it. Yeah. Hope I have answered your
On a
question.
more serious one, has any interspecific studies done on bare teeth signaling in primates?
Interspecies bare teeth signaling, as far as I know, not the signaling part, but there is interspecies emotional the perception of emotional expressions. And actually, I did run recently the study in human population, in humans. So I presented bonobo emotional expression, facial expressions to humans, and actually people most confused with the bare teeth displays with the play face display. So they basically thought bare teeth display, since it's morphologically similar to human smile, so they thought it is a positive emotional, having a positive emotional valence, and it would be the signal of happiness or something like that. So I would say the way a species perceive a certain facial expression or a certain stereotype of behavioral expression would be pretty much determined by their species repertoire. Yep.
Excellent.
Okay, there's a couple of questions from the YouTube viewers, so I'll ask those ones. Okay, so first of all, Matt asks, considering how humans can fake a smile or other emotions, have you found that bonobos or other animals have that same complexity in facial body expression and character? So I guess, can you tell the difference between sort of a true bare teeth or a fake one, something like this?
Actually, there was a very recently published paper in I don't remember exactly the name of the species because I just briefly scanned yesterday, but they indeed did analyze, decode all this facial action unit, and then they found that actually the same bare teeth display is actually different in slightly different contexts. So like we make genuine smile with like this, and also the eyes and the eyebrows as well. And they also do have this kind of variation according to the specific kind of context where they produce this bare teeth display. So they do have definitely has a voluntary control, and they do have definitely have used has an ability to use this in a depending on the certain context.
Yeah, so for me personally, what you said so far, it sounds like it's more on purpose, right? Whereas for humans, we smile involuntarily, but if it's from a submissive to a dominant, it's it's a choice. So it seems like it's kind of always fake, I suppose, something like this. It sounds
it's not really always fake. So you definitely have this genuine or more autonomic responses, but at the same time, you have a control over this, all the facial expression or facial muscle movement. So you can actually voluntarily control and fake if it's necessary. but it doesn't really rule out the fact that it also reflects your internal true motivation.
Okay, thank you. Nice. And then there's one more question from the YouTube as well. They say, Thomas says, in animals which BT is unidirectional, yeah, towards dominant individuals, what happens when the hierarchy is changed? So when one steps up and becomes alpha, does it suddenly stop smiling to the others?
Of course, it should be. Otherwise, there is a huge risk to be attacked by this dominant who just become dominant, right? So the reason why in the despotic species have such a unidirectional way of expressing their teeth is because to reduce the risk of being attacked by mis-signaling. So they should be able to adjust their behavior according to the current situation as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that would be something really interesting to study if you ever have that situation. Okay, thank you very much.
I thank you.
Okay, I think.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions from anybody?
I actually have one if there aren't any others. I was just simply curious how the situation has been when you have to study bonobos and gray apes in captivity during this COVID situation. Like, are you able to be in contact with them, or like how is the distancing and stuff going right now?
Exactly. That's a very good question. So we were not allowed to, until very recently, we were not allowed to go to a zoo. And in the Netherlands, we were really recommended to work from home. So yeah, I wasn't really able to go to a zoo and then resume my research back. But now we have a permission from Artis Zoo in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. So from next week, I would be able to go back. But then we have all this protocol for the strict prevention of the disease spread. So I will wear all this mask and also the face shield as well, and then wear a gown and also the boots as well, experimental boots. And then whenever we go into the ape area, we will disinfect our hands and everything. So we will try to strictly follow the protocol that we made.
I see.
Yep.
Thank you. Are there like non-researcher like visitors at zoos? Do they have to take precautions, or are they even allowed to visit zoos
actually now? They are allowed to go to a zoo, but they have to make a reservation in advance. And also they do have this kind of social distancing measures. But things are quite loosened here compared to Japan or compared to Korea, I would say. So not really many people are wearing masks outside. So even in the zoo, they are not really wearing a mask. But there is quite a huge distance between humans and also between animals, and there is this enclosure with let's say a glass wall or things like that. So I think there is no report yet, except in some kind of in some kind of farms, there is no report of disease transmission or corona transmission from humans to other wild animals at a zoo.
I see. Thank you. Yeah, I was just curious because
thank you.
In Japan, we just had our I think 4-day holiday, and there were reports on the different tourist attractions in different cities, and some zoos were like really, really crowded, and some of the enclosures are open displays. So I was kind of thinking, like, is this really okay, and like how is it in other countries? So yeah.
True.
Really interesting.
I think the approach is a bit different from like Japan and here, I think.
Yeah. Seems like it. But yeah, thank you also for the mission, for completing our mission of
Yeah,
yeah,
I really
I
thought deeply.
yeah,
Yeah,
very nice take
yeah,
home
thank you
message,
very
I
much.
think.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we have one more question from the YouTube, if that's all right, if we have
Okay.
time. Abdullah asks, they say, in animals in which BT happens bidirectionally, do the higher ranks tend to show less aggressiveness within the group?
Yeah, also there is a study showing that when they have bare teeth display, whether the recipient will have more or less aggression. And it turns out when they have more, when they do produce bare teeth display in response to threat or potential threat, then they have less likelihood to have an aggression. So it actually has a function to reduce the risk of attack or to facilitate social bonds between diet. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Oh, looks like we have a hand up from Kuilan Lim. Oh,
Hi, good evening. Yeah,
Hello.
go ahead.
yeah, I'm just thinking about when I look at the bear teeth display, I just remember a video that I saw in maybe YouTube. So it was like a guy was playing music and then clapping hands, and then the chimpanzee, I think maybe in the century or something, was doing the same thing and showing teeth, and then the people comments below there, YouTube were like, oh, this kids look very happy, I just play, it just like, follow the music, rhythm, and then just dance along. But then there are also people who said like, when they show teeth, they're like being aggressive. They don't like it. Do you have such? I mean, because you work with it, so I wonder if you have any like such experience in social media when you have to explain to people that this is not what you think.
Yeah. Well, I haven't had any experience myself explaining in the social media that this is wrong, because I don't do social media very often, or I try not to do so. But for example, my group in Korea, we are more kind of contributing to that side of like a conservation or like animal welfare. So whenever we have this kind of misinformation coming from this on social media, then we try to correct the misinformation and then repost it. But by myself, I haven't done it. Yeah.
Well, but thank you.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah,
And thank you for a really interesting presentation.
Yeah, I thank you too as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And kind of with what you and Anna Gret was just talking about, how we can go like a whole 2 hours on just how the COVID situation has changed, especially animal researchers, and like because going out into the field, so some people like you have to go out into the field.
Yeah, true.
And I don't know, Anna Gret, if you want to bring out a couple of people who can talk about that, we're more than welcome.
Yeah, I definitely know a couple, and I'm sure Vanessa, Cecile, and yeah, people from I guess our discipline, have been suffering quite a bit. But I think the situation is, getting better in some labs. I've heard from people that they should try to stay indoors 2 weeks before they go out to the field. And it also depends on the species they study. So I work with birds, so there's no real like threat to the birds. But yeah, primates and mammals, cats especially, are I've heard that it's quite difficult right now. So yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow. We actually did quite a long Q&A session there. Okay. Well, I'm gonna take any kind of lingering questions. So, whoever has any questions, speak now or forever hold your peace. Well, if you do have any kind of additional questions, you are welcome to either contact the speakers themselves, or you can contact us, the Nerd Night group, through Facebook or on our website, and we can forward that to the speakers if they for them to answer. Oh, I just saw something coming up from the YouTube. So, Katie, could you go ahead and read that
Yeah,
out?
we'll do one more then. Okay, so yeah, so Thomas again. Thomas says, are there occasions within groups of bidirectional BT display where the higher hierarchies might consider BT display from lower ones to be some sort of disrespect?
Higher ranked individuals consider the low ranked individuals' abilities display disrespect. I assume the question is asking whether certain abilities display, morphologically, there's certain abilities display can be considered inappropriate in certain species when it directed to higher individuals. I have to look it up, but as far as I know, I don't think there is a study done so far to specifically analyze the facial, like action unit, like I explained before, with regard to the consequence of it. So I think it should be investigated later, but as far as I know, there is no study about that.
Okay, yep. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Yep.
I guess that'd be a good place to wrap up.